CEO fired single dad to hide the truth, but he was the one who saved her daughter's life. The storm had barely settled over the city when Ethan Ward, a tired single father with exhaustion stitched beneath his eyes, stood outside the towering glass building of Velcorp, holding the termination letter that would rewrite the fate of everyone involved. Hours earlier, he had been celebrated as the company's most reliable employee. Now he was being discarded quietly, secretly, because the CEO, Ariana Blake, could not allow the truth to surface. The truth that he had witnessed her daughter collapse in the hallway, struggling for breath, while the world around her kept walking. The truth that he had been the one who saved the girl's life, not the private medical team she later praised in front of cameras. And most painfully, the truth that acknowledging him meant admitting her own failure as a mother. Before you continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that show humanity at its core, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to KandHStories. Your support keeps these heartfelt narratives alive. Ethan had only wanted a stable job to care for his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, whose heart condition made every day uncertain and expensive. His life was structured around routines, early mornings, exact medication times, doctor visits, and late-night shifts, yet he held it all together for her. When he joined Velcorp, it had felt like a miracle, a chance to finally breathe. The building became almost a second home to him, and though the workload was heavy, Ethan worked with the sincerity of a man who knew that every paycheck was a lifeline. Meanwhile, Ariana Blake lived on the top floor, both literally and emotionally. Known as a fierce CEO with flawless public presence, she seemed to possess everything: power, wealth, influence, and an image sculpted to perfection. But behind the glamorous interviews and tailored suits, she was a woman losing grip on her personal life. Her daughter, Amelia, was a gentle 14-year-old who longed for her mother's attention far more than she longed for the luxury around her. Ariana kept her distance, thinking that providing comfort, money, and safety was enough to fill the spaces where love and presence were supposed to be. It was on a rainy Thursday evening when Ethan stayed late to finish a project. As he walked down the quiet hallway, he noticed Amelia leaning against the wall, her breathing sharp and uneven. At first, he thought she was crying, but then her knees buckled and her hand clawed at her chest. He didn't think twice. He rushed to her, checking her pulse, realizing quickly that this was a severe asthma attack, and she didn't have her inhaler. Ethan carried her to the emergency room 2 floors down, calling out to the night shift staff and staying by her side until the crisis passed. The doctors later said that if he had arrived even 1 minute later, the outcome could have been devastating. When Ariana arrived at the hospital, her face pale and trembling, she saw Ethan sitting outside the room, shaken and covered in sweat. But instead of gratitude, relief, or even a simple thank you, she felt fear. Fear that someone had witnessed her daughter's vulnerability, fear that it would tarnish her image, fear that her absence would become a headline. So she chose the only path that protected her ego: silence. She stepped into the room, thanked the medical team, and pretended Ethan did not exist. The next morning, Ethan was fired. The letter carefully avoided the real reason. It stated budget cuts, restructuring, and sudden departmental changes. But he knew the truth. The HR manager had barely been able to look him in the eye, and the CEO who owed him everything didn't even show her face. Ethan left the building carrying the weight of betrayal, fear, and a future crumbling faster than he could rebuild it. With no savings left, most spent on Lily's surgeries, he returned to their tiny apartment and stared at her as she slept, unaware of how fragile their world had become. Days stretched into weeks as Ethan took up temporary jobs, carrying boxes, cleaning stores, repairing fences, anything to keep food on the table. But the bills kept piling up. Lily's next checkup was approaching, and Ethan knew they couldn't afford it this time. He kept the worry hidden behind forced smiles, but Lily was observant. She saw the dark circles, the heaviness in his voice, the way he sat quietly on the couch late at night, staring at the wall as if searching for a miracle. Meanwhile, Amelia was changing. After the attack, she had started questioning everything: her mother's absence, the company's cold environment, the forced silence about the man who had saved her life. She remembered Ethan's gentle reassurance as she gasped for air, how he had held her hand and told her she'd be okay. She remembered the fear in his eyes, which mirrored her own. She remembered everything her mother wanted her to forget. One evening, Amelia confronted Ariana in her office, not with anger but with calm determination. She asked why the man who had saved her life had disappeared from the company. Ariana tried to dodge the question with her usual polished responses, but for the first time, Amelia didn't accept them. Her words trembled, but they struck deeply. She told her mother that she didn't need a CEO, she needed a parent, and that firing a man for doing the right thing wasn't power, it was cruelty. The truth rippled through Ariana like a crack in the glass walls she had built around herself. Ariana tried to continue her week normally, but guilt followed her everywhere. The silent hallways, the polished elevators, the polished reflection in the boardroom windows. She kept seeing Ethan's face from that night in the hospital, the kind of fear only a parent understood. Slowly, the image she had been protecting felt hollow. The power she clung to felt meaningless. Her breaking point came when she found a small drawing on Amelia's desk. It showed 3 figures: Amelia, her mother, and Ethan. Beneath it was written in shaky handwriting, "He saved my life when no one else saw me." Ariana finally realized what she had done, not just to Ethan, but to her own daughter. Within hours, she had her driver take her across the city, following the address Amelia had found through an old employee directory. She expected a moderately comfortable home, something simple but stable. Instead, she found a worn-down apartment complex with flickering lights and crumbling stairs. When she knocked on the door, she braced herself for anger, or worse, indifference. But the door opened to Lily, holding a stuffed rabbit, smiling the way children smile at strangers without knowing the world's cruelty. Ethan appeared behind her, tired and thinner than before, his eyes widening in disbelief at the sight of the woman who had destroyed his life standing outside his door. Ariana didn't speak immediately because the apology stuck in her throat, thicker and heavier than any words she had ever tried to say. She offered him a written confession of her actions and extended an offer to reinstate him, promote him, double his salary, and publicly credit him for saving Amelia. She told him she was ready to face the backlash, the headlines, the judgment, anything to make things right. Ethan didn't take the papers. Not yet. Instead, he asked her why. And for the first time in years, Ariana didn't hide behind a polished reputation. She admitted her envy of his courage, her shame of her absence, her fear of being exposed as a flawed mother. She admitted that he had done what she couldn't, be present at the right moment. What changed everything wasn't the apology. It was when Ariana knelt down, looked Lily in the eyes, and asked if she could help support her medical care. She didn't say it with pity. She said it with humility, and Lily, in her innocence, hugged her without hesitation. What followed in the next weeks was nothing short of transformation. Ethan returned to Velcorp, not as a worker who blended into hallways, but as the director of a new department Ariana founded, one dedicated to employee welfare, something the company had never prioritized. Lily received the medical treatment she desperately needed. Amelia, finally seeing her mother take responsibility, grew closer to her than she ever had. And Ariana, once known as a ruthless CEO, began to redefine what leadership meant. She walked into departments she had never visited before, spoke to employees she used to overlook, and thanked people for their work. The change didn't happen overnight, but it was real. Near the end of their journey, Ethan stood on the rooftop of the building where he had once been invisible. The sun was setting over the city, painting everything gold, as if trying to write a new chapter for him. And as he looked down at the bustling world below, he realized something profound. Sometimes life breaks you not to punish you, but to rebuild you in a way you never imagined. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to KandHStories. Your support helps bring more emotional, meaningful stories to life. Before the ending, please comment below. Should Ariana's transformation be considered true redemption? In the end, the truth